Have you ever felt a strange vibration run through your body, almost like you were shaking, but not really? Imagine lying in bed one night, waiting for this odd sensation to stop, when suddenly you feel yourself bumping against something. You look down, and to your shock, you're floating against the ceiling of your own bedroom. Down below, you see your wife sleeping, and next to her is you. What kind of strange dream is this? You might think. That's the exact moment a great shock washed over Robert Monroe, realizing the person in bed with his wife was himself. This wasn't a dream. It was the beginning of an incredible journey. In the 1950s, Robert Monroe was a successful American businessman, a family man with a booming career in the radio industry. Spirituality and philosophy were the furthest things from his mind. But one day, his entire reality was turned upside down. Without warning, he began having experiences that his rational mind couldn't possibly explain. He found himself involuntarily outside his physical body, exploring what he called a second body. This wasn't just floating in his room. This second body took him to realities far beyond anything we know. This single startling discovery launched him on a lifelong quest into expanded states of consciousness. Through these experiences, he came to a profound realization: death isn't the end. It's merely a transition to another state of being. Monroe dedicated himself to investigating the very nature of human consciousness, exploring how we interact with energetic dimensions beyond our normal understanding of time and space. He began to see human beings not just as flesh and blood, but as complex energy systems, constantly interacting with higher forces. These incredible revelations led him to meticulously document everything, making him a true pioneer in the study of out-of-body experiences. It all started back in 1958. Monroe, then 43, began experiencing phenomena that defied all logic. One of the most shocking events happened one afternoon as he lay down to rest. Moments later, a powerful vibration shook his entire body with such force that it filled him with deep fear. Puzzled and alarmed, he struggled to get up, and after a brief effort, the vibrations finally stopped. Naturally worried, he consulted doctors and psychologists. But to his surprise, they all assured him he was in perfect health. With that reassurance, he decided not to shy away from the unknown. Instead, his curiosity took over. He chose to delve deeper. The next time the vibration started, he allowed himself to be carried away by them. That's when he found himself floating outside his physical body. His first thought, he had died. Panic seized him, and that intense fear instantly snapped him back into his body. But this was far from a one-time event. These episodes began to happen again and again. What began with astonishment and confusion slowly transformed into mastery. Over the next 3 decades, Robert Monroe learned the art of consciously separating from his physical body, all with the goal of scientifically proving the existence of other realities and intelligences beyond our physical world. At first, Monroe was completely perplexed. He had no frame of reference for what was happening. He looked to conventional science for answers, but found nothing satisfactory. It was only when he started reading and connecting with others exploring similar phenomena that he began to find answers outside of traditional physics. He discovered the world of astral projection and realized he wasn't alone. Over time, he grew to understand that he was interacting with what he called his second body, a term he preferred over more esoteric labels like astral body. He approached this ancient phenomenon, historically tied to occult beliefs, with a structured scientific mindset, stripping away the superstition to get to the core of the experience. So what exactly is an out-of-body experience, or OBE? It's a moment when you feel your consciousness has completely separated from your physical body. During an OBE, you might perceive yourself floating outside your body, looking at it from another perspective, or even traveling to entirely different places, dimensions, or realities. This phenomenon, which Robert Monroe famously called an OBE, is not new. It's been documented in spiritual traditions all over the world for centuries. In ancient Egypt, They believed a part of the soul called the Ba could travel to other realms while a person was still alive. Hindu traditions speak of siddhis, or supernatural abilities, that allow for travel to other planes of existence. Shamanic cultures from Siberia to the Americas have long documented journeys where shamans cross between the physical and spiritual worlds. Even Tibetan Buddhist texts describe intermediate states of the soul after death, and the Bible itself contains accounts of ecstatic experiences that sound very much like travel in a second body. While these experiences were common in many traditions, they largely remained in the realm of the mystical. That is, until Robert Monroe decided to study them systematically. As Monroe's OBEs became more frequent, he published his findings in 1971 in the groundbreaking book, Journeys Out of the Body. This book introduced the idea that our consciousness can transcend the physical body to a much wider audience. During his years of travel, he even discovered that his second body could interact with the physical world. On one occasion, he decided to test this by pinching a friend while he was out of his body. To his astonishment, she felt it and later showed him the bruise. His work had a massive impact. Suddenly, people from all over the world started sharing their own similar experiences, confirming that Monroe was onto something truly profound. Driven by his insatiable desire to understand human consciousness, Monroe founded the Monroe Institute. It was here that he developed Hemi-Sync, a revolutionary audio technology using specific sound frequencies to synchronize the left and right hemispheres of the brain. This technology helps people achieve altered states of consciousness more easily, allowing them to explore the very same states Monroe had stumbled upon. His work wasn't just about floating out of his body. It was about unlocking the vast, untapped potential of the human mind. Monroe believed that by exploring these inner worlds, we could begin to understand our true nature and our place in the universe. He saw life as a series of learning experiences, a way to grow and evolve our consciousness. He described it like moving into a higher and higher orbit with each life, learning more and more until you finally achieve escape velocity. That's when you go home and get into a new game with the maker, but that's just one of endless options. As Monroe himself said, you could even become a maker yourself. What we learn here, in this life, are the basic tools. Robert Monroe's journey from a pragmatic businessman to a pioneer of consciousness exploration shows us that there are realities beyond our everyday perception, just waiting to be discovered. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the mind of Robert Monroe. If you found this fascinating, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more explorations into the mysteries of consciousness. See you next time. Have you ever wondered what lies beyond the boundaries of our physical reality? What if you could leave your body and explore other dimensions? Today, we're diving deep into the extraordinary life and discoveries of Robert Monroe, a man who not only charted these unknown territories, but also taught others how to follow. In 1974, Robert Monroe founded a research center dedicated to studying out-of-body experiences and helping people explore their own altered states of consciousness. One of his most groundbreaking contributions was Hemi-Sync, a sound technology designed to synchronize the brain's hemispheres using specific audio frequencies. This system, developed by the Monroe Institute, allows individuals to reach profound states of meditation, relaxation, and for some, even trigger out-of-body experiences. But Monroe's work didn't just attract spiritual seekers. It also caught the eye of the CIA. Declassified documents from projects like the Gateway Project and Stargate Project revealed the US government's serious interest in Monroe's methods. They believed that these altered states of consciousness could be harnessed for intelligence and espionage operations, particularly for something called remote viewing, the ability to see distant places psychically. The Gateway Project, led by Wayne McDonnell, was a scientific investigation into how the mind could operate beyond the constraints of space and time. Meanwhile, the Stargate Project focused on training agents, like the famous Joe McMoneagle, to use these psychic abilities for real-world espionage, with techniques heavily influenced by the Monroe Institute. These projects showed just how seriously Monroe's work was taken at the highest levels, as they explored not just the potential of the human mind, but the very fabric of space, time, and hidden dimensions. So now that we know who Robert Monroe was, let's get to the really fascinating part. What did he actually discover on his journeys outside his body? What secrets did he bring back from realms where time dissolves and consciousness expands into the unknown? During his travels in what he called his second body, Monroe began to map out the different realities he encountered. He categorized them into 3 distinct levels, or scenarios, each representing a different dimension of existence. The first scenario is simple. It's our physical reality, the material world we live in every day, governed by the laws of physics as we know them. But things get truly mind-bending when we move to the second scenario. Monroe described the second scenario as a vast, non-physical realm where the rules of our world barely apply. It's a dimension so immense that our conscious minds can't fully grasp it. This is the space that contains what we might think of as heaven and hell, but those are just small parts of a much larger landscape. This realm is inhabited by all sorts of entities, and Monroe found he could communicate with them. Here, the biggest change is the nature of time. Past, present, and future all exist at once, flowing together in an eternal now. But the most fundamental law of this reality is this: thought creates. Your thoughts literally shape your reality, generating energy and manifesting matter. In the second scenario, you are what you think. Monroe even theorized that a soul in this state is essentially a vortex of energy, organized and shaped by its own thoughts. He believed this second scenario isn't far away. It's right here, coexisting with our physical world, just vibrating at a different frequency. Think of it like radio waves. They're all around us, but we can't perceive them without a radio. Similarly, our senses aren't tuned to perceive these other realities. Monroe pointed out that we didn't know about ultrasound or X-rays until we built instruments to detect them. What other energies and dimensions are we currently blind to? Navigating this thought-driven world was a challenge. Monroe found that emotions, especially repressed ones like fear, manifested instantly and powerfully. The areas closest to our physical world were filled with beings trapped by their own unresolved emotions. Some were asleep, some were on drugs, and some had passed away but were still stuck. He described learning to control his emotions in this space as a long, difficult process, much like a child learning to walk. He believed this emotional training might be the first thing we all go through after death. During one of these journeys, Monroe received a shocking packet of information that introduced the concept of louche. According to this revelation, louche is a form of energy produced by the intense emotional experiences of living beings, especially humans. The story suggested that Earth was created as a kind of cosmic garden to cultivate this energy generated from things like pain, suffering, love, and worship, which is then collected by higher entities. While it sounds sinister, Monroe later came to see it from a broader, more metaphysical perspective, not necessarily a negative one. If you're curious, let me know in the comments and I can make a whole video just on the concept of louche. Then there was the third scenario. This was a world surprisingly similar to ours, with cities, people, and social structures. But the technology was completely different. There was no electricity or oil. Everything ran on things like steam power. During one visit, Monroe found himself inhabiting the body of a person in that world. He was still himself, but he could access the memories and feelings of this other person, suggesting his second body could deeply interact with other realities. He eventually concluded that this wasn't a stranger, but an alternate version of himself living in a parallel universe. So what does all this mean? For Monroe, proving that out-of-body experiences are real has huge implications for humanity. It directly confronts our greatest fear, the fear of death. Someone who has an out-of-body experience often loses that fear completely, and their entire perspective on life changes, much like people who've had near-death experiences. Monroe came to believe that human life has a profound purpose. He said we voluntarily choose to be born into this physical world to learn, experience, and evolve. The problem is, once we're here, we forget why we came and get trapped in a cycle of rebirths, attached to human emotions and experiences. He introduced the idea of escape velocity, an energy we need to build up to break free from this cycle. The more we cling to earthly emotions, the more this velocity decreases. To increase it, we need to raise our level of consciousness. He saw our physical existence as a unique training ground. Simple actions here, like moving our bodies, are actually acts of immense energy manipulation on higher planes, giving us a kind of creative superpower in other scenarios. Our life here is a precious opportunity to learn how to master energy, but we can also get stuck if we do unlearn how to elevate ourselves beyond our physical and emotional limits. Robert Monroe passed away in 1995, but he left behind a powerful legacy. The idea that reality is infinitely more vast than what our senses tell us. He showed us a path to explore beyond our physical limits and dive into the mysteries of consciousness. The Monroe Institute continues his work today, developing new technologies and inspiring people all over the world to question what is real and open their minds to the infinite possibilities that lie beyond. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey today. If you enjoyed this exploration into the mind and beyond, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. See you soon!